Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. The Superprestige is underway. We kicked off with the first round of racing in Overijse. Another dominant display by Van Empel. The return of October Iserbyt and also the return of Issam. Thank you for being here, Issam.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
In this episode we will discuss the men's and then the women's race in Overijse, and you will also hear from us in Ardooie. We made an audio report there from Noah in the fields. But let's dive straight into the racing in Overijse. Thibau Nys had the best start. Kevin Kuhn led for most of the first lap, but nothing really happened. In the second lap, Iserbyt took the lead. Nys was sitting in his wheel when he crashed. It was a bit of a weird crash. We couldn't properly see what happened, but it looked like he hit something and went over the bars. Iserbyt had a healthy lead, and he just kept going. He kept going, and expanded his lead. Thibau Nys was set back to like 20th position, some 25 seconds down, started to pull through the field, but Iserbyt had 20 seconds on the chasers after 3 laps. By then, Thibau Nys had caught up and was in second place of the race. He started to properly chase. He was pulling a couple of riders in his wheel and slowly eliminated one another from his wheel, and the gap to Iserbyt went to 16 seconds, then to 13, and then finally it went down to 8 seconds. At that point, Iserbyt realized there was not much point in continuing. He sat up. We went to a situation where we had 4 leaders. Nys bridged the gap. He was followed by Van der Haar and Vanthourenhout. From there, in the second half of the race, we had a situation where Van der Haar had a small gap for a while, then Vanthourenhout had a gap, but it ultimately came down to the final lap. Vanthourenhout started the final lap with a small gap on Thibau Nys because Vanthourenhout skipped a bike change. Nys closed the gap to Vanthourenhout. Vanthourenhout dropped the pace. This allowed Iserbyt and Van der Haar to come back. We had 4 leaders. Paul Sauze did what Paul Sauze is good in, playing the team tactics. Iserbyt took the front, Vanthourenhout in second, dropped the gap. Nys needed to react, and he did. He closed the gap to Iserbyt. We had 2 riders going into the final part of the course together. Iserbyt tried whatever he could. He attacked uphill, he attacked in the downhill, he couldn't get rid of Nys. We were set for a sprint, but then in the final downhill of the course towards the village of Overijse, Nys tried a very risky move. On the off-camber downhill, he tried to set up a switchback line, overtook Iserbyt, but ultimately overshot the corner on the exit, went down. Iserbyt was held up, but quickly back on his bike, and from there on, it was easy peasy for Iserbyt. He took the first win of the season for him. He was super happy with it. Vanthourenhout ended second. Behind there was quite a bit going on still. Thibau Nys sat up, didn't really care about third or fourth. Van der Haar saw Nys in front of him and then had a very weird crash at the end. Still managed to get on his bike, overtook Thibau and ended third. So your podium, Iserbyt, Vanthourenhout, Van der Haar. Let's talk about that final lap, Issam, or we should actually talk about the race in general because it was a pretty good one. How do you think Iserbyt will reflect upon this victory? He won. Do you think he's maybe still a bit concerned considering how much difficulties he had with Nys today?
The celebration was a big sigh of relief, I guess, because there was maybe put that pressure on him as well himself, but it wasn't easy for him, the losses that he had to endure, and finally he got the win. I don't think, to be honest, that he is going to care too much on how he got the win. If he would look at the race from a realistic perspective, he came in a very good position very early on due to a crash of Nys, and from there it was, I think he had a gap almost 25 seconds or something, 26 on Nys. Then Nys comes back and catches up again with him. I think that from a realistic standpoint, you need to look at that and be like, how was I not able to maintain that gap, or at least make the most use out of it? And in the last lap, Iserbyt tried everything, but Nys was still there, and then he goes for a risky move, a move which was understandable. But yeah, I think that for Iserbyt, it's now probably a sigh of relief. I won it, euphoric. It's also his birthday today, so the good things all come together, I guess. But for the next coming races, I would be looking at the other competitors and be like, okay, well, Nys was quite close today. You could arguably say that he was the strongest today, and then with that idea, you have to go into the other races and think what your game plan will be and how you will be able to clear this problem, which is called Thibau Nys, because today was a problem for them, but then just with his own actions killed his chances for a win.
Yeah, that's also why I did just say it, maybe a bit lucky. I don't think this was a lucky win for Iserbyt. Over the course of the race, I do agree with you, he was not the strongest. But Cross is more than just being the strongest. That first crash, I don't know if we can really blame Nys for it. It looked just pretty random. But that second one, I think it was still a mistake by Nys to make that move there. It was a super risky move. It is basically an impossible place to overtake for this exact reason. If you take that upper line there, it's pushing you towards the barriers on the exit. You need to keep the speed for the small bump after. I think it was a mistake to make the move there, but at the same time, it's super easy for me to judge from the TV. I have the overview. I can see the entire course. I can see Iserbyt's strong and weak points. Thibau Nys does not have that advantage. In a way, I can understand him. He thinks, I need to pass him before that gnarly off-camber at the end. I don't want it to come down to a sprint starting from second position. I need to pass. I'm going to do it here. He should have tried elsewhere if he wanted to be first. Maybe at the second pits, but Iserbyt had the pace high. Into the short carousel sponsor section up top was no issue. It was no option because the pace was high. Iserbyt paced there to avoid that from happening. I can understand the incentives for a do or die move, but I do think if Thibau Nys is in the same position in a couple of seasons, he's not going to make the same mistake. He's going to be a bit calmer, rely a bit more on his sprint. But that does bring us to the bigger issue for Iserbyt, the fact that this was even going to come down to a sprint. Thibau Nys was, as you said, 25 seconds down, comes back. This is not a good sign for Iserbyt. Earlier this week in Ardooie, he got beaten by Gerben Kuipers. I think that's partly the sign of relief that we saw afterwards. Iserbyt is having, for the first time in a couple of seasons, a serious challenge brought to him in the pre-season races. And this is going to cause him some sleepless nights, maybe. Now, that's just a saying. It's not that he literally will stay awake at night, but he's going to need to scratch behind his head and try and figure a way to move forward, because at the moment, it looks like he is not the best guy in the field.
Yeah, and I think that is a bit different from the last couple of losses that he had against Nys, because I can remember that in Waterloo we were saying, well, Iserbyt was maybe the strongest, but Nys just, had a very good race. Iserbyt was unfortunate. And the same goes for Beringen, that we were also thinking that Nys was in a good position, won that race, but Iserbyt maybe had that little bit more. I think that if Nys would have won this race, it would have been very bad for Iserbyt, in my opinion, because then this was a race that he also said in the interview that he gave for the race that he really wanted to win, and then to lose it in such a way where you had such an advantage and you still lose, yeah, that wouldn't have been very easy to deal with. But that didn't happen, and he won the race, and I think we should give him credit for the fact that he won the race. Nys made a mistake. It's simple as that. And I guess Paul Sousa took it personal when I said that they were in trouble this season because they got the 1-2.
Yeah, Iserbyt was talking like it was a given that if he didn't have bad luck in Beringen and Waterloo, he would have won those races. I'm not entirely sure on that. The fact that he ended second in Ardooie, which was not a race that he fully treated as training. He was definitely going at it, but just got dropped by a stronger Gerben Kuipers. These are all signs that there is a shift going on in the land of the full-time cyclocross riders. You have Iserbyt, Vanthourenhout and Van der Haar, the guys who've been there, but you have a couple of guys knocking on that door, or by now banging on the door. Ron Haar, not a great race today, ended 14th, but still. Nieuwenhuis, who's a comeback kid, is not really young anymore, but still. Mason, 5th today, Kuipers, 6th today on a course that doesn't really suit him. It's super interesting, these dynamics, and in a way, for Iserbyt, the situation is comparable to the one that Brandt has had with Vos a couple of seasons ago, or Pietersen has had with Van Empel. They are roughly even matched if it comes down to pure power. They are super closely matched. They just can't get rid of each other. So it comes down to a final lap. And the problem Iserbyt has is that Nys is just a killer. He has that sprint. He has that clutch gene normally. I mean, today is not maybe really a day to say he has it considering what happened. But nevertheless, it's difficult for Iserbyt. He needs to come up with a game plan, and maybe he won't really critically reflect upon this race because he won. Maybe he will. Maybe he will come up with a new plan. He said he had a secret plan for Waterloo last week, but that he couldn't use it. Who knows? I mean, Iserbyt is not a dumb racer. He knows the drill. He knows what he needs to do. And maybe this win will work for him. Maybe it will just make him feel more relaxed, less pressure. It will work relenting. He doesn't feel the pressure on his shoulder next week. He doesn't need to fear about the headlines. Eli Iserbyt, it's November, no win. Iserbyt, is his time over? Is he washed? He knows he's not really well liked in Belgium. To avoid all that, maybe next week will just be a bit freer. And of course, you don't know, jet lag. Everybody deals with it differently. Iserbyt flew back business class on Monday so he could race on Thursday. Thibau Nys only flew back on Wednesday evening because he stayed over to do some team building with his road team. There are still some factors going into here, but at the moment it does quite look like it that Thibau Nys is the strongest man in the field, and it's a shame that he doesn't win it in the end for him, but at the same time it's also part of the sport.
I think we have discussed more than enough the balance of power between Iserbyt and Nys. I mean, at the end of it, it's all speculation as well. So, we have to see how it will play out in the end. Michael Vanthourenhout, one guy that surprised me in a way with his performance, I have to say. Didn't look good the last couple of weeks. Vanthourenhout being in second. I mean, his interview after the race was, to put it nicely, maybe a little bit delusional, but his racing was quite good. And I think, Overijse is probably a race that suits him well. Last year winner with the World Cup in Overijse then. And I think that today he had a quite a good day. He wasn't able to bring Nys and Iserbyt in trouble in the last lap, but I still think that for him, if you look at the last couple of races and then you see the step that he made in this race, was definitely a very good step. So, from his side, definitely a very good performance, and in a way you could maybe say a well-deserved second place.
Yeah, Vanthourenhout looked good, but that interview, as you said, was interesting, claiming, well, yeah, Nys is better than us at the moment, but, well, what can we do? We can drive him crazy. We're with two, and today we just made him crazy. And you saw it at the end when they made a mistake. It was all due to us, due to our tactics, and then also coming across the line, celebrating as if he had a major share in it, giving a bit of those free rider vibes of your school group project. Although I must say, he did try and drop that gap in the final lap, but does creating the front page of the group project really count as working towards it? If that's all you do, I'm not too sure, but nevertheless, he can take a good getaway from this. It, as you said, hasn't been growing great. He said he didn't feel amazing today, and yeah, he was pretty good. He was one of the riders to stay on the Grifo tire thread, even despite the rain showers. He did at some point look within a shot of winning, but that was mainly because he skipped a bike change when the rest switched back to the Grifo tire thread. And that brings me to one last point about Thibau Nys, which I noticed. There was a point in the race after the crash, he switched bikes. He went super well. He was really killing it, sending it across the track, gaining time. But then, once he had caught Iserbyt, he went in for a new clean bike. On that bike, it just didn't seem to work. He kept slipping. He didn't have enough grip. Even on the uphill, I saw him get out of the saddle a couple of times and his back wheel just spinning, not enough traction. You could see in a couple of these corners that he just missed the line, and then on the exit he needed to make this movement, which I find very hard to describe, but it's kind of that he's pulling his front wheel up and bringing it a bit to the left so it's in the right position for him. It was just signs that it wasn't going well, and then he made another change towards the end of the race and things went a bit better again. And kind of in between all of this, there was Lars van der Haar, who kind of ends on the place where we're used to seeing him end, between second and fourth. A good race by him. I think this was the maximum achievable for him, and he needs that 1% extra to be able to fully compete for the win. Let's look at the entire top 10 then. Iserbyt with the win ahead of Vanthourenhout, Van der Haar, Nys and Cameron Mason in 5th. Gerben Kuipers ended 6th ahead of his teammate Kevin Kuhn in 7th. Laurens Zweek was 8th ahead of Ryan Kamp and Niels van der Putte. Let's talk about that British flag in the top 10. Cameron Mason moving to the Cyclocross Reds team, an absolutely stunning kit for him. First race of the season, 5th place. It is a course that suits him, Issam, but still a very good result for him.
I was very impressed, to be honest, because I think that I didn't really have expectations from him starting in Overijse because, it's very early for him. So we don't really know where he was going to be at. So, for me personally, I didn't really have any expectations. Obviously, we know where he was last year, and I think that he definitely continued, if not had a better performance than what we have seen last year in a way, on average. And I think that is very positive. And with the transfer that he made to Cyclocross Reds, a little bit within that Alpecin system that they have, I think that it's very encouraging for him and his career. Definitely a very good step. And the racing itself, he was battling a little bit with Gerben Kuipers and eventually got the better of him. I think a very good result, and definitely something that you can work with. If you can grow during the season, who knows? Maybe he can make that step and fight for podiums with the current field that we have right now. So I think very encouraging and super result from his side.
Definitely, I hope he can continue to make progression at the Cyclocross Reds team. And somebody who is making that progression is Gerben Kuipers, 6th place, won in Ardooie this week. One more time, a short his story. This guy was working in a factory last season, working in the morning, hardly having time to train in the afternoon. Finish at 5, do a 1 hour ride before it's dark. That was it. He has a lot of potential. His results were better. He, thanks to some help, got the Specialized last year that was used by Thibau when he raced for Quickstep. Things were going upwards for him. Now he's joined the Circus Reus Technord team of the Bart Wellens and Geert Wellens. The Wellens brothers is what I wanted to say. They're working hard on his technique. That was really, really a painful point last season. That just wasn't going well. This year, things have improved for him. His technique is noticeably better. But at the same time, this course might have been still a little bit too technical for him. I saw him suffer quite a bit in those downhills, but on the uphills he had the power. Not a bad race by him, and I think we can say the same for his teammate Kevin Kuhn.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Kuhn also had a very good race. From the start, really going at it, really trying to be in the mix. Especially in the beginning, he was the one chasing Iserbyt when he had that gap. I think a very strong outing from him as well. And if we go to the courses, maybe with a little bit more, obviously Overijse, it was muddy, but it wasn't, with a little bit more rain, it would have been amazing to watch, I guess. But still, the racing itself was great to see, but there are better versions of Overijse. But I think that with some of the courses that are coming up this season, top fives are probably possible. And, it's encouraging for him. And I also like it that he's not shy of racing at the front. I don't think personally that it was a race from his side that it was very fast at the start and then completely blow up at the end. It was the circumstances in the end that led to him, just fading a little bit. But I think that it was a very strong outing from him as well, and it looks good for the duo there at Circus Reus Technord.
Yeah, and it's just ahead of Laurens Zweek, who had torn his calf after Beringen last week in Waterloo. He seemed to indicate that it was not that serious. It seemed to be a bit more serious than he indicated, and we thought 8th place today did not look great. Didn't look to be into the race at any point, had a bad start, was on the back foot ever since. We'll need to wait and see how that evolves, but it did not look great. Rest of the riders, well, it's interesting to see such a big group of riders fighting for the back end of the top 10. Basically everybody from Kuhn all the way till Wietse Meeuwse, like Jente Michels, Wietse Meeuwse, Tom van der Bos. These are all riders that are jockeying for those positions. It's nice to see a couple of different names rather than having 5 names that you can fill in there every week. As briefly mentioned before, not a great race for Pim Ronhaar and Joris Nieuwenhuis, two of the Baloise track riders who were very good last week in Waterloo, ended 14th and 16th here. Have to say the same about Jens Adams in 20th position. This is a rider who has not had a great start to the season, was 12th in Beringen, 5th in Ardooie, and now 20th here, whilst we know that he has the potential to be in the top 5 or top 10 of these races.
Ze draaien rechtsop. Kan Thibau Nys uit dat wiel komen. Dus op de strip. Hij weg van zijn lijn een beetje af. Maar Nys gaat erover en wint.
Patat.
That brings us to the Dutch word of the week, Issam. And the Dutch word of this week is Verjaardag. Tell me why.
Birthday. Yeah, I think the birthday of Iserbyt and the present that he got with Nys taking a little bit too much risk in his overtake and crashing out, and then the win was there for grabs. So I think probably the reason why you choose Verjaardag, the Verjaardag of Iserbyt, the birthday of Iserbyt was today, and he gets a very nice present in winning in Overijse.
With that out of the way, let's go towards the women's race. It was a very straightforward one. Van Empel had the best start. Marie Schreiber briefly took over, but Van Empel bombed the first downhill, and from there on she went solo. She comfortably took the win with a margin of nearly a minute. The battle for second was relatively interesting for the first half of the race. We had a battle between Van der Heijden, Worst and Alvarado. Alvarado was stronger on the downhill, struggled a bit on the climbs in the first half, but around the midway point of the race managed to get away. Van der Heijden was battling with Worst behind, and Van der Heijden managed to ride away on one of the climbs towards the end of the race and took third. So Van Empel with a win ahead of Alvarado and Van der Heijden. Issam, Van Empel with another comfortable win here. Unlike what was earlier indicated by Puk Pietersen that she would race the European Championships, she's decided to take a longer rest period. She will be skipping next week. She will be skipping the European Championships and come back some way halfway through November, somewhere around there. With that, and Van Anrooy out, with Vash breaking her collarbone, do you think that this is the scenario we're going to be stuck in for the upcoming weeks? Van Empel just taking the win easily?
Yeah, I think that is the bad news that we can expect for the next couple of weeks. And, you know, she cannot do anything about it, Van Empel. She's just that good at the moment, and there's not really someone that can match her. And the names that you mentioned with the Vash, with the Pietersen, Van Anrooy, those are the women that, if they are on a very good day, one more than the other, they can really bring a fight to Van Empel. But with the likes that we have at the moment, with an Alvarado, with a Van der Heijden, with a Worst, we have seen that there is just a difference. And the difference is, to be honest, quite significant, because I think that if Van Empel wanted it to be 2 minutes, it could have been 2 minutes maybe. So it is, you know, the gaps don't really matter in the end, but it's just the whole, what you see in the racing and stuff, it's just, it is so easy. And of course it isn't, because you have to race and you have to do it, but it just looks so easy. And for the neutral viewer, yeah, it is going to be difficult, I think, some of the races, because you probably can guess the winner in a lot of the races that are coming up in the near future, who is going to win it. And obviously the race still has to be done, but yeah, it is the scenario where we're in at the moment.
I thought the comment after the race was perhaps the most interesting thing by Van Empel, that she said, well, as always, we know Van Empel is somebody who likes to downplay the expectations, saying, I didn't feel great after the jet lag and I took rest this week. And then after the race, she said, well, I'm going to be maybe taking a bit more rest throughout the season. It's maybe an option to skip one weekend of racing every month. Before the race, she said that after the European Championship, she was going to take a 1 or 2 week rest from racing regardless, which opens some perspective, because that would basically mean that we would have Van Empel probably winning a majority of the races until the European Championships. There's 3 big ones left: Ruddervoorde, then Maasmechelen, then Koppenberg. I don't know if she will do the Koppenberg, then European Championships. After that, she's taking a rest, and then by the time she comes back, we're looking at a full field with Backstedt there again, with just Pietersen back, Van Rooij coming back. Vos is already back on the bike 4 days after surgery, which is always insane to me. It's pretty interesting. What do you think of that season planning and maybe the season planning of Pietersen as well?
Realistic, I would say, because I think that it's you have to set your goals, and they are not only cyclocross riders in the end. You know, they have their goals and their eyes on other things outside of cyclocross, and if they would compromise the cyclocross, or they would compromise the preparations for the other disciplines, and really want to make the most out of the cyclocross season, win as many races as possible, try to race as many races as possible, it would look very foolish if you fail to achieve the potential in other disciplines. So it's fully understandable that choices are made. It's just that at the moment it's not really. I think that one thing is for sure, that when you have the races where Van Empel is not there, and maybe Pieters is also not there, and maybe Van Androoy is not there, I think then it's opening up a little bit for the other women to see and race for victory. And I think those races are going to be very interesting, next to obviously the races where we have all the riders available for a real battle. So I think that that is what we have to wait for, I guess. And for the meantime, we can admire the power and the domination that Van Empel has at the moment.
It should definitely open some perspective for Alvarado, who comfortably looks to be best of the rest at the moment. We're still waiting for Lucinda Brandt to come back. I'm interested to see what her level will be like. She said that last year she rushed back into competition. She doesn't want to do that again. And that's always the interesting situation you're in with cyclocross. If you're racing every weekend, especially if you do double weekends, it's going to be super hard to even maintain your level during the season. At some point you need to go out. You need to be in a different rhythm than, okay, race on Saturday, Sunday, rest on Monday, slow ride on the Tuesday, then on Wednesday we do a group training, on Thursday we try to do an endurance training, Friday race spin, and then we go racing again. It's super tricky to balance and really improve yourself throughout the season. The tiredness is so easy to build, which is also why you see that the riders who normally do skip 1 or 2 weeks already benefit a lot from that, which is always difficult in season planning because you want to be relevant in the classifications. At the same time, if you're just saying, I don't care about the classifications and just peaking towards the national championships, world championships, you have such an advantage over the riders who do 30-35 cross races a season. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Alvarado looks to be one of the riders who's just going to race everything this season. And if you're in her position, I completely understand it. You're just going to race everything, try and end up as high as possible in the classifications. Because at this moment, you're probably being realistic and knowing that you're not going to end up on the podium of the World Championships if nothing crazy happens. That doesn't mean that it's a bad ride, because I think that the riders we saw from 2nd to 4th place, Alvarado, Van der Heijden and Vorst, can all be happy. Alvarado looked decent, kind of what we expected. But it was good to see things go well for Van der Heijden. She had that issue in Beringen. She crashed on the off-camber downhill in the pre-ride, said she mentally blocked during the race, completely faded in the second half of the race in Waterloo, and now gets that podium, which is a really good result, and maybe not exactly a course that is perfect for her as well. She likes a bit of a flatter course more.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that for her that was a very, very strong result, strong outing. She had the ambition to achieve these results, but yeah, the start of the season wasn't the greatest. Bit unfortunate, and then to bounce back and have such a result in, like you say, a course that normally, if you look at her profile, is not really something that suits her best. I think a strong outing and very promising on how that will play out in the next few races, and also the races where maybe if Van Empel is not there, will she be able to maybe bring up a fight to Alvarado, who at the moment looks best of the rest?
Let's look at the entire top 10 then. A full Dutch top 7. Van Empel ahead of Alvarado, Van der Heijden, Worst, Van Alphen, Betsema and Bentveld. 8th place was for Helene Clauzel ahead of Anna Kay and Laura Verdonschot. From these results, I would briefly like to mention Denise Betsema. I think it was a decent result by her. She got hit by a car on training around 5-6 weeks ago. It really influenced her seasonal preparation, which is understandable. I hope that she will make a full recovery. It's looking alright, came onto steam throughout the race, picked up riders who blew up, like Helene Clauzel, who can still be satisfied with that top 10 position. She also picked up Marie Schreiber after a fast start, although now after recording this in the post-edit, I have learned that she crashed on the road pretty hard 2 days ago during training, so that definitely does part of the explaining there. And then finally, I would like to mention good results. Anna Kay 9th is the type of result she will be needing. Hopefully a little bit better. She kind of needed to be in that Betsema group to have a really good race. And the 10th place for Donschot in the core, still a talented rider, had 2 difficult seasons. One time with mental issues in the build-up to the season. Then after that, physical issues. Won a couple of crosses in Spain. It's looking good for her. Good to see her beat Sanne Kant, who started her season with an 11th place. And with that said, let's head to Ardooie for our audio report. Noah in the fields.
Beste wedstrijd, hartelijk welkom op de 28e editie van de Ardooise Kermiscross.
Hello everyone and welcome in Ardooie for a new episode of Noah in the Field. And it's a special one because with me here today is Issam.
Hey everyone, pleased to be joining here in Ardooie and let's see what we can make of it.
The women elite and men elite are racing today. Let's take a short time to preview that. What are you expecting today in the women elite race?
I think, the top is a strong field, to be honest. We have a couple of strong riders, but to be honest, I would lean towards Annemarie Worst to win today.
I would say it's going to be a close battle with her teammate Aniek van Alphen. Should also not underestimate a couple of other riders, maybe Alicia Frank. We know she is a rider who on her day can do it. Ardooie normally a bit weird cross. What are you expecting on the men's side? Team battle between Vanthourenhout and Iserbyt?
I don't think that Vanthourenhout will be able to challenge Iserbyt too much. We have seen that Iserbyt is very strong, so I would say that Iserbyt is probably the man to beat. But with the Gerben Kuipers, you definitely have someone that could match him on a very good day.
We will see. I'm also hoping for a good performance by Gerben Kuipers. And with that said, we will try and speak with some riders, but the team parking is pretty far away. Even though we got free access, no press pass for us, so it might be a bit difficult. We'll try and make the best of it. Elie Iserbyt, Iserbyt, Elie Iserbyt. The women elite race just finished. We saw Annemarie Worst take the win ahead of Aniek van Alphen. I had it wrong. I went for Van Alphen. You went for Worst. Tell us about the race, Issam.
I think that, at the beginning of the race, it was a bit of searching what they want to do with the race, and I think it's a bit normal with a midweek cross. We saw Van Alphen and Worst very strong. Ribeiro was there, and also Alicia Frank. Those were the 4 strongest. Frank had an issue with the shoe, so she was out of the race for a podium. And then it was Ribeiro, Worst and Van Alphen, and the last 2, Van Alphen and Worst, were the stronger women. And it was a battle till the last lap. Van Alphen had a gap, was going for it, but I think Worst with the experience was just a little bit better and eventually took the win.
It's a good sign for Worst that she can take the win here. She's been struggling quite a bit, I would say, this season. Missing the podium in Oosterwijk last weekend was not ideal, to say the least. But I think both can take positives from this, because Van Alphen looks to have consolidated the step she made last year when she won Boom, being able to fight with the likes of Worst, Betsema, Alvarado. That's kind of the step she needed to make, and I guess both can take positives from this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for both it was a good outing. And it's not the most important race. This is a race that you try to do to get in a rhythm, to just get a little bit more used to everything. It's the start of the season. So I think that, for both women, there is a lot of positives to take. And, it's for them And now they have to build on this form that they have right now and see how much they can grow going into the season.
Yeah, I would say the same. Ribeirol with third place can be relatively happy about that result. As well, she looked all right. It would have been interesting to see how Frank would have gone. She made a pretty strong impression on me in the first half, but it is what it is. And shoes, it seems to be becoming more common that people have a broken shoe than a flat tire in cross these days. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Eindigend op de derde plaats, troisième place. Een applaus, dames en heren, voor Mario Norbert Ribeirol.
The men elite race just finished. We saw another demonstration by Gerben Kuipers, kind of similar to what we saw in Oosterwijk this weekend, but Issam this time with Iserbyt and Vanthourenhout at the start.
Yeah, I think for him it's important that he, beat those guys. Those are a little bit bigger competitors compared to what he has beaten in Oosterwijk. I think that he can be very proud of what he has achieved. Obviously, you need to look into it a little bit more. Iserbyt and Vanthourenhout came back from traveling to the States. They just arrived, I don't know, I think Monday or Tuesday. So for them it's obviously also maybe with a little bit of a jet lag that they have been racing here. But I think for Kuipers, it shows that he has the potential to, on a good day, to beat Iserbyt and to beat Vanthourenhout. And I think he just, did a very good job.
I think it touches upon what we said in the Waterloo Recap podcast. These are exciting times for the cyclocross season, for the cyclocross world. The time of you have 4 guys at most, from most of the time just one team. The Powell Sousa days, those are kind of behind us. We're having exciting times with 7-8 riders that can win these races if everything comes together. Kuipers, well, by the time you'll hear this, it will be outdated. It will be interesting to see what he can do in Overijse. We know that his technical skills in terms of off-cambers, downhills are a bit sketchy. A lot of work has been done over the summer with the Valens brothers. Those are people who are very good in helping them. It will be interesting to see how he goes. Second place was for Iserbyt. Don't look into it too much, as Issam said, but third place for Viseur, pretty good.
Yeah, I think especially the third place for Viseur is a very strong result. I think, for him it's one of those seasons where he has to prove himself as someone that is now jumping into the deep waters of the elite field. So, for him it's definitely something that he can work with, and it helps with the motivation for the next coming races. So, for him it's a very good day, and I think for Kuipers as well. Iserbyt and Vanthourenhout will look a little bit, I wouldn't say disappointed, but they're probably not very happy with it. But, for them, the big races are coming up, and they want to be at their best there.
With that, we end the show here in Ardooie. It's been a good day out. We'll start the 3-hour journey back home. It's been good to be here, see a little bit. No interviews because the parking was a bit too far away, as said earlier. But we will be back with a new Noah in the fields next week when we are in Woerden. See you guys then.
Well, that was it from Ardooie, our short audio report from there. It was a pretty fun event with some, good racing there. Any words left to say on Ardooie, Issam?
It was a fun day, I guess. It was, going in there was feeling like this kind of nostalgic, historic kind of race. They have very traditional race, I would say. But I had fun. It was the racing was good in both the men's and women's race, and it was great people there, no issues whatsoever. So I think it was lovely race to visit, and maybe something to do for the future again, but definitely enjoyed it.
Let's do some administration. There was quite some racing in Europe and across the world. Here are the top 3 of most of those races. We had the first round of the Coupe de France take place in Quelnuc. The second round also took place. On Saturday, the first round was won by Sandy Dujardin. Second place was for Kevin Suarez Fernandez. The third place was for Eddy Finet. On the Sunday, those results, at least for the top 2 positions, were reversed. We had Kevin Suarez Fernandez take the win ahead of Sandy Dujardin. The third place went to Michael Crispin. Eddy Finet took a tumble there. These races are free for rewatching on Velo Plus TV. You only need to make a free account to register. You can find links to this on our website, cyclocross.social. There was, of course, also women's racing there. The women's race on Saturday was won by Amandine Foucounet ahead of Amandine Vidon. The third place on Saturday was for Evita Muzic. On Sunday, there was the same top two, Amandine Foucounet ahead of Amandine Vidon. The third place then was for Olivia Onesti. There was also racing in Italy on Saturday. Filippo Fontana took the win in Jesolo ahead of Filippo Agostinaccio. The third place was for Federico Seolini. The women's race there was won by Carlotta Borello ahead of Rebecca Garibaldi and Alice Pappo. There were even some national titles awarded. Marcus Pajur became national champion of Estonia by beating Josep Messi and Gert Kivitsky. The women's race there was won by Laura Sander, so she is now the national champion there. She beat Elisabeth Ebras ahead of Elina Tassane. There was also racing in the Czech Republic. The Toy to Toy Cup held around in Hole Vrichy. That was won by Michael Boros ahead of Marek Konwa and Jakub Riemann. The women's race was won by Kristina Zemanova ahead of Victoria Gladonova and Katerine Dubrekova. Interesting to see two junior women on the podium there. There was also racing in North America. The only Canadian C2 race which is not associated with the national championships took place in Lviv. Mika Komaniuk took the win ahead of Matteo Opizzi and Alexander Woodford. The women's race was won by Sydney McGill ahead of Christelle Ferrier-Brundeau. And the women's race was won by Stephanie Vial. There was also the King CX, which took place in Cincinnati or Mason, Ohio. Curtis White took his first win as national champion, beating Ian Ackert and Marcus Shelton. The women's elite race was won by Clara Honsinger in a sprint against Isabella Holmgren. Lizzie Gunsalis ended third there. And finally on Saturday, there was a race in the Netherlands in Heerde. Niels van der Putte took the win ahead of Jens Dekker and Kai de Bruikere. The women's elite race was won by Manon Bakker ahead of Laura Molengraaf and Femke Gort. Then we had the Swiss Cyclocross Cup host its third round. Timon Ruek took the win ahead of Gioele Bertolini and Dario Lillo. The women's race was won by Sara Casasola ahead of Rebecca Esterman and Marlène Petit-Girard. The racing in Ohio still needs to take place. The second day of King CX hasn't started when we are recording this, so those results are not available to us. And the results from Slovakia, the Grand Prix Trnava, aren't in yet either on the UCI website, so we will have to do it with this. That will complete the administration from all over Europe, all over the world, in fact. Issam, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
We will be back on Wednesday with an interview with a French race organizer. The organizer of the Brumat Bike Festival, who has been in talks to join the World Cup, is speaking with us. That will come on Wednesday. Next week, first double podcast weekend coming up. Actually, a triple podcast weekend. Maybe even, how many podcasts are we making? Way too many. We have coming up Superprestige Ruddervoorde. We have coming up the World Cup in Maasmechelen. We have the final weekend of the US CX Series taking place at a really rad cycling festival on the 1st of November. We have the Koppenberg Cross. In the meantime, we also will make a preview for the European Championships. More than enough content coming up for you guys. So if you like this episode, make sure to leave a rating if you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you get your platform. And we will see you guys next time. Goodbye.